Hi guys, welcome back to my second video. We're going to continue with the exercises from the freeCodeCamp curriculum for basic JavaScript. Okay, so let's continue where we left off. In this exercise, we need to construct a string with variables. Okay, so we need to set these two variables, my name and my name, to a string equal to our name. I'm just going to assign this to the string John, and then the variable myString will be again a string, but it will be constructed from the myName variable, and we need to add this text. Okay, so the way we do this is just we can use the plus operator to do string concatenation, just like we do addition of numbers. Okay, so let's put this plus my name plus, let me copy paste this. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so that's it for this exercise. Let's continue with the next one. Okay, so we need to append variables to strings. In this case, we need to set some adjective, this variable here, and let's assign a string here, great. Okay, and then we need to append this to myString, myStr, the variable myStr, using the plus equals operator. Okay, this is what we need to do. So we have here myStr plus equals some adjective. Don't forget the semicolon. So what this does is it takes this string learning to code is, and it appends the string which is saved in this variable some adjective. In the end, it will be learning to code is great. It will be the string which will be saved in this variable myStr. Okay, let's run the test. Okay, continue with the next one. We need to find the length of a string. For that, we can use the dot length method in the string. Okay, so for this exercise, we need to use dot length it's a property in JavaScript, not a method. But if you're a beginner, you're going to learn the difference a bit later. What's the difference between a property and a method? We need to use the dot length property to count the number of characters in the last name variable and assign it to last name length. Okay, so this variable last name has this string Lovelace, and we need to find the length using the dot length notation. Okay, so after the variable name, put dot length, and this will give us the length of the string Lovelace here. So in this case, it should be 8. And we are going to save this into this new variable last name length, which was initialized with a 0 variable, with the 0 value. Okay, let's run this. Okay, everything's great. Let's get to the next one. Ask me later. Okay. We need to use bracket notation to find the first character in a string. Okay, so strings have indexes to get the character which is at that specific index in a string. This is the same as with arrays, we will learn later on. So we need to use bracket notation to find the first character at the last name. We have this variable last name, again with the string Lovelace. And then we need to get the first character, which is this character, uppercase L. Now, to do that, we can take the variable where we have the string last name, and in between brackets we need to put the index of the first character. The index of the first character is of course 0, because as you probably know, in programming languages we start counting from 0. Let's run this, and that's it. Let's continue with the next one. Okay, we need in this exercise we need to correct the assignment to mystr so that it contains the string value of hello world using the approach shown in the example above. So strings in JavaScript are immutable, which means that they cannot be altered once created. Okay, so in this case, if we try to get the first character of a string and reassign it, then well, this doesn't really work in this case. So in our exercise we are trying to change this string from jello world to hello world by taking the first character j here with the index 0 and reassign it to h. But this doesn't work because the string is immutable in JavaScript. Okay, so we need to correct this, and the only way to do this is just to reassign the string to this variable. So we are just going to reassign this variable mystr to the correct string. Okay, pretty straightforward. Let's continue. Now, in this exercise, we need to set this variable third letter of last name to equal the third letter of the last name variable using bracket notation. Okay, so we have last name here, which is Lovelace again, and we need to get the third letter. So we need to get V. So we're going to use bracket notation, and since the counting starts from 0, to get the third character we need to put the index 2. Okay, let's run this. Great. Okay, in this exercise we need to use the bracket notation to find the last character in the last name variable. Okay, now to get the last character, so in this case E, well, the last character should have the index which will be the length of, oh, sorry about that. The index of the last character in this case is 4 plus 4, 8. So there are 8 characters in the word, but since we start counting from 0, the index of the last character will be 7. So 8 minus 1. Okay, so to do that, we can calculate the index by doing something like this. Inside the bracket notation, we get the length as the property of the string last name dot length, and then we remove 1 since we start counting from 0, and this inside the brackets will give us the index of the last character. Okay, so in our case it will give us 7, since last name dot length is 8 minus 1, 7, and then the character with index 7 will be E. Let's run this. Okay, great. Now we need to use the bracket notation to find the nth to last character in the string. Okay, so the nth to last, it will be, for example, third to last will be, of course, with the index length minus 3, the length of the string minus 3. Okay, for our exercise, we need to get second to last character in the last name string. Okay, so we're going to use again the brackets, and then last name dot length will give us the length of the string, and we're going to remove 2 to get the second to last character. Okay, let's run this. Perfect. Now, word blanks. So in this challenge, we get a noun, a verb, an adjective, and an adverb. We need to form a complete sentence using words along. So we need to put some words of our choice along with the words that are provided by the exercise. We need to use the string concatenation operator plus to build a new string with the provided variables, and then we are going to assign this new form string to the word blanks right here. And we should not change the words assigned. Also, we need to account for spaces. Okay, so what we can do here. Okay, so we are just going to start constructing this string. Let's put some words of our choice. So I'm going to put this my, and then I'm going to put a space right here, plus my noun. So far we have my, which I put, a dog. So after dog we need a space, so we can do a space like this. Okay. Now let's put something here. Okay. Now let's put something, another word of our choice. Oh, okay, maybe we need to put it inside. So I want to construct this sentence. My dog is big and it ran quick. And yes, and it ran quickly. Okay, so I'm doing my with a space plus my noun. Now here is I'm putting in between spaces. Now I'm going to add plus my adjective. Okay, now I'm going to add a space and it and another space plus my verb, and I'm going to add another space plus my adverb, and now I'm going to add a full stop at the end. Okay, so let's run this. So this new sentence will be my dog is big and it ran quickly. Okay, let's run this. Okay, perfect. Let's continue with the next one. Now we are going to talk about multiple values in one variable. So we are going to talk about arrays. Okay, we need to modify the my array so that it contains both a string and a number in that order. Okay, let's save a string ABC and then a number 5. Okay, so I have an array here which has only two values. The first one is a string and the second is a number. Let's run this. Okay, continue with the next one. Now we need to nest one array. We need to create a nested array called myArray. Okay, let's put this 1, 2, 3 here and another array 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have a nested array. Sorry, we need to put the, okay, perfect. Now, how can we access array data with indexes? We need to create a variable myData and set it equal to the first value of my array using the bracket notation. Okay, so I'm going to declare var myData and it is going to be my array And like we did with strings, it's the same with arrays. To access the first element, we need to access it using the brackets with the index inside. The first element, of course, is going to have index 0. Let's put the semicolon. Okay, perfect. Now, we need to modify array data with indexes. So arrays are different from strings in this case because they are mutable. We can change one element inside this array by accessing it using the index. So we need to modify the data stored at index 0, so this value 18, and set it to 45. Okay, so what we're going to do is my array, and we're going to access it using the index 0, and we're going to reassign it to 45. We can do that with arrays, but not with strings. Okay, perfect. Now, we need to access multi-dimensional arrays with indexes. Okay, we need to use bracket notation to select an element from my array such that my data is equal to 8. Here is the my array, which is a nested array, and we need to access the value 8. So the first index, of course, is going to give us the element in this array, in this nested array. So the first element is, of course, this array which has values 1, 2, 3. The second element is this one. Third is this one. And then the fourth element is this one. We need to access the value 8. So we need to get this array which is inside my array. And to get this, this is the third element in the array, so we can access it with the index 2. Okay, now so far this part here gives us this array. Now to access number 8, we need again to use the index inside this smaller array. So 8 is the second element here, so we can access it using index 1. Okay, so let's try this. Perfect. Now we need to use the push function. So push is a way to append data to the end of the array. It takes only one parameter, which is going to be the new value in the new element we need to push into this array. So what we need to do is we need to push this array, which has two values, dog and 3, onto the end of the myArray variable. Okay, so myArray dot push, and inside I'm just going to copy this. So this will be a single element in this array. It's going to be another array. Okay, let's run this. Okay, perfect. Now we are going to use the pop function. Pop is used to pop a value of the end of the array. Okay, we can store it by assigning it to a variable. Now we need to use pop function to remove the last item from my array, and we need to assign it to a variable removed from array. Okay, so we have here var removed from array. This is going to be my array dot pop. Okay, let's run this. Okay, nice. Let's continue. Now we need to use shift to manipulate arrays. Okay, since pop always removed the last element, we need shift, which works just like pop, but it removes the first element instead of the last. We need to use shift to remove the first item from my array here, and assigning this shifted off value to removed from array. Okay, again, this is pretty easy. My array dot shift. Let's run this. Okay, now we need to use unshift. Okay, so unshift works like push, but it doesn't add the element to the end of the array, but to the beginning of the array. For our exercise, we need to add this array as an element to the array myArray using unshift. Okay, let's try this. myArray dot unshift, and unshift takes as an argument the element we need to add at the beginning of at the start of the array. So we're going to add another array since we have a nested array in this case. Let's run this. Okay, perfect. Let's continue with the next one. Now we need to create a shopping list using the variable myList. The list should be a multi-dimensional array containing several subarrays. The first element in each subarray should contain a string with the name of the item, and the second element should be a number representing the quantity. Okay, so we need to have a nested array here, and we need to have 5 elements, and each element in here needs to be another array. Okay, let's do this. So let's add this the first. Okay, I'm going to paste this and change the values since it's easier to type. Chips 4. Let's add another one. So I'm going to beers, maybe 20. Paste this again and modify. Hot dogs 10. So how many we have so far? We have 4. Let's add another one. Sandwiches and 10. Okay, so we have 5 subarrays. Okay, one for chocolate, for chips, for beer, for hot dogs, and for sandwiches. Let's run this. Okay, perfect. Now we need to write a reusable JavaScript. We need to write reusable JavaScript with functions. Okay, so we need to create a function called reusable function, which prints hi world to the dev console. Okay, so we can define a function like this function, and we're going to give it a name, which will be reusable function. Let's make this camel case, and here, this is the note. Inside the brackets, we need to print hi world to the console log, so we can do this using the console.log function, which just prints a string to the console log. So it needs to say hi world. Okay, so we have defined our function, and now we need to just call it. Okay, reusable function, and this is how we call the function in JavaScript. Okay, perfect. Let's continue with the next one. Now we need to pass values to functions with arguments. So functions can have arguments like this one. This one takes 2 arguments. Okay, so we need to create a function called function with args. Let's define it. Function with args, and this one takes 2 arguments. Let's call this arg1 and arg2. And what this does, it just outputs their sum to the dev console. Okay, console.log, and I'm going to do arg1 plus arg2. Okay, or maybe we can do it even longer. Let's leave it like this. Now we need to call the function with 2 numbers as arguments. So function with args, and I'm going to give this 3 and 4. So we should have 7 printed here. So this one, it seems to be working fine. Let's run this. Okay, perfect. Okay, as always, you try to solve these functions by yourself first by reading the description, and then you can check the solutions with mine. Okay, so now we're going to talk about global scope and functions. So in JavaScript, scope refers to the visibility of variables. Variables which are defined outside of a function block have a global scope. So if we define a variable outside these two functions, they have a global scope. That means that they can be seen or used everywhere in your JavaScript code. Variables which are used without the var keyword are automatically created in the global scope. So this can have unintended consequences, so it's better to declare your variables with var. We're going to discuss this later as well. For our exercise, we need to use var to declare a global variable named myGlobal outside of any function and initialize it with a value of 10. Okay, let's declare this here. So it's outside. We have two functions here. So we need to make it global, we need to declare it outside of these two functions. Okay, this is going to be 10. Inside function fun1, assign 5 to oops global without using the var keyword. Okay, so let's start. So we're not going to use var here, and we're going to assign this to 5. Okay, let's run this. Okay, great. Continue with the next one. Now we're going to talk about local scope and functions, so variables which are declared within a function as well as the function parameters have local scope. So even the function parameters are considered as variable declared within the function, so they have local scope. So that means they are only visible and can be accessed, used within that function. So let's see. We have this exercise here. The editor has two console.logs to help you see what is happening. So this to here, and we need to check the console as you code to see how it changes. We need to declare a local variable myVar inside my local scope. Okay, so let's declare a variable var myVar. Okay, note the console will still have reference error myVar is not defined. Okay, let's see, let's run the tests. Okay, perfect. So global versus local scoping function. So it's possible to have both local and global variables with the same name. When you do this, the local variable takes precedence over the global variable. So that means that inside a function, for example, if we have a local variable with the same name as a global, when we are going to use that variable, then it's going to search first for a local variable to take the value, and then if it cannot find it, it's going to take the value of the global one. Okay, so we need to add a local variable to my outfit function to override the value of outerwear with sweater. Okay, so we're going to do this like this. Our outerwear, and then we're going to give this the value sweater. Okay, so outerwear is declared here as a global variable, and in here we have a local variable with the same name, and we override t-shirt with sweater. Okay, perfect. Let's continue with the next one. Okay, so for this we need to return a value from a function with return. Since you can pass values to a function with arguments, you can also use the return statement to send the value back out of a function. Okay, so let's create a function times 5. Function times 5. So let's see the exercise here. Times 5, which accepts one argument and multiplies it by 5. So I'm going to call the argument num, short for number, and now it accepts one argument and it multiplies it by 5 and returns a new value. So it returns 5 times num. Okay, so how can we test this? We need to call the function, of course, and we're going to assign it to a variable. So our answer is going to be equal times 5, and I'm going to give this a value 10, and then of course to see it, maybe we also want to console log it, so console.log answer. In this case, you see it's working fine because we see 50 right here. Okay, let's test this. Perfect. Okay, understanding undefined value returned from a function. Okay. Since functions in JavaScript can include the return statement, but they do not have to. In case the function doesn't have a return statement, when you call it, the function processes the inner code, but it returns the value is undefined. Okay. We need to create a function add5 without any arguments. This function adds 5 to the sum variable, but its return value is undefined. Okay, so here we have add 3 as an example. Let's create another function add 5, which takes no argument, and what it does is adds 5 to the sum variable. So this sum variable is a global variable declared here. Okay, so I'm going to do this to, okay, sum plus 5, and since we don't have a return here, it doesn't return anything. Let's run this. Okay, perfect. Now assignment with return value. When we return a value from a function, we can store it, of course, in another variable. Okay, so this is an example right here. Let's see the exercise. We need to call this function process arg with an argument of 7 and then assign its return value to the variable processed. Okay, so since we have declared an initialized process right here, we don't need to declare it again. Process is going to be equal to process arg, and we're going to give the parameter 7 as an argument. What this is doing is executing this function process arg, which does 7 plus 3, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So we store the value 2 in the variable processed. Okay, let's run this. Okay, perfect. Continue with the next one. Stand in line. So we're going to talk about a queue, which is a data structure where items are kept in order. New items can be added at the back of the queue, and all items are taken off from the front of the queue. We need to write a function next in line which takes an array R and a number item as arguments. Add the number to the end of the array, then remove the first element of the array. Okay, the next inline function should then return the element that was removed. We need only to change the code right here. So we have this function next in line, takes an array and a number item Okay, so what we need to do is add the number at the end of the array. So to do that, we are going to use r.push. So what push did is it appended an element to the end of the array. So I'm just going to give item. Item is going to be the element which is going to be appended at the end of the array, and then um, remove the first element of the array. So we need to remove the first element. To do that, we're going to use r dot. So we used pop to remove the first element at the array, to remove the last element of the array, but we are going to use shift to remove. Let's try to. So before 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have shift is going to remove the first element. Okay, we have done this part. And the next line function should return the element that was removed. So we need to return the element that was removed. Let's call this bar removed element. Let's put a semicolon, and we're going to return this. So I am storing the element that was removed from the first of the line, and by storing it into a variable removed element, and then I'm going to return that one. Okay, as you can see from the code which is being run here, we have an array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then after that we have added 6, and then we have returned 1, which is the first element that was from the array, and that one that was removed. Let's run the test here. Okay, perfect. Let's continue with the next one. Now we're going to talk about Boolean values. So another data type is the Boolean. A Boolean may be only one of the two values, true or false. Okay, so they are like on and off switches. Just remember, they should never be written with quotes. That would make them strings, so we just write them true or false. And we need to modify this function so that it returns true instead of false. Pretty easy, just replace false with true right here. Okay, so I think I'm going to finish this video right here. So far we have gone through half of the basic JavaScript in the freeCodeCamp curriculum. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video, and in the next one I'm going to continue with the other exercises from the curriculum. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.